The United Kingdom's decision to leave the European Union marked a pivotal shift in the country's agricultural landscape as well. UK farmers, who once enjoyed the stability and financial support provided by the EU's Common Agricultural Policy, or CAP, have found themselves grappling with the new realities imposed by Brexit. The introduction of a new subsidy scheme by the British government, intended to replace the benefits once provided by CAP, has further complicated the situation. And with this video, I want to delve into the severe difficulties faced by UK farmers due to the end of CAP, the financial losses they have incurred since Brexit, the UK's dependency on food imports from the EU, the potential to substitute these imports with goods from more distant countries, and the strategies proposed by the new Labour government to support the agricultural sector. The EU's Common Agricultural Policy, or CAP, established in 1962, was designed to provide financial stability to farmers, ensure a stable supply of affordable food, and promote rural development. For decades, CAP was instrumental in sustaining UK farmers, offering direct payments based on the amount of land farmed and providing a safety net against the uncertainties of the global agricultural market. The policy also included rural development programs aimed at improving the competitiveness of the agricultural sector, enhancing the environment, and supporting rural communities. CAP payments were crucial in maintaining farm incomes, particularly for small and medium-sized farms that might otherwise struggle to compete in the market. The policy also facilitated access to the broader European market, where UK farmers could export their products without facing trade barriers. For many farmers, CAP was not just a financial lifeline, but also a source of predictability in an industry characterized by volatility due to factors like weather conditions, global market fluctuations, and changing consumer demands. The UK's departure from the EU brought an end to its participation in CAP, leaving UK farmers without the financial support and market access they had long relied upon. In its place, the British government introduced the Environmental Land Management Scheme, or ELMS, a new subsidy framework aimed at rewarding farmers for environmental stewardship rather than production. ELMS represents a significant shift in agricultural policy, reflecting broader concerns about climate change, but biodiversity loss and the need for sustainable farming practices. Under this scheme, farmers are encouraged to adopt practices that contribute to environmental goals, such as improving soil health, reducing carbon emissions, enhancing water quality, and conserving wildlife habitats. While the objectives of ELMS align with global sustainability goals, the transition from CAP to ELMS has not been smooth. Many farmers have expressed concerns about the adequacy of the financial support provided under the new scheme. Unlike CAP, which offered direct payments based on land area, ELMS requires farmers to undertake specific environmental projects to receive funding at all. And this shift has created uncertainty, particularly for those who are unsure how to integrate these environmental initiatives into their existing operations without compromising productivity and, most important for them, income. Moreover, the administrative complexity of ELMS has been a significant point of contention. Farmers have reported that the application process for ELMS is cumbersome and time-consuming, requiring a level of expertise that many do not possess. This has led to delays in accessing funds, exacerbating the financial strain on farmers who are already dealing with the loss of CAP payments. The financial consequences of Brexit for UK farmers have been profound. The loss of CAP subsidies alone represents a significant blow to farm incomes. And according to estimates, UK farmers stand to lose up to £3 billion annually due to the cessation of these payments. This loss is compounded by the additional costs associated with new trade barriers, tariffs, and market access restrictions that have emerged in the post-Brexit landscape. The UK's exit from the EU single market and customs union has introduced a range of new challenges for agricultural exports. Prior to Brexit, UK farmers benefited from tariff-free access to the EU market, which accounted for a significant portion of their exports. Post-Brexit, however, British agricultural products face tariffs, but also regulatory checks and delays at the border, making them less competitive in the EU market. And this has led to a decline in exports, particularly for perishable goods like fresh produce, meat, and dairy products, which are highly sensitive to delays. The impact of these trade barriers is not limited to export markets. The cost of importing agricultural inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, machinery, and animal feed has also risen due to tariffs and increased regulatory requirements. This has driven up production costs for UK farmers, further squeezing their profit margins at a time when they are already struggling with the loss of CAP subsidies. Another significant challenge has been the labour shortages that have arisen due to the end of free movement between the UK and the EU. The agricultural sector, particularly in areas such as fruit and vegetable picking, has long relied on seasonal labour from EU countries. Brexit has made it more difficult to attract and retain these workers, leading to unharvested crops and, in some cases, significant financial losses for farmers. In light of these challenges, the new Labour government has recognised the need to provide greater support to the agricultural sector. And one of the key pillars of Labour's agricultural policy is a comprehensive review of the Environmental Land Management Scheme, or ELMS. While the party says it remains committed to environmental sustainability, it acknowledges that the current scheme may not provide adequate financial support to farmers, particularly during the period they are going through at the moment. And Labour has pledged to reform ELMS to make it more accessible, less bureaucratic, and more aligned with the economic realities faced by farmers. And in addition to ELMS reform, the Labour government has proposed increasing investment in rural infrastructure. This includes improving transport links to help farmers access markets more efficiently, expanding broadband coverage in rural areas to support the adoption of digital farming technologies, and enhancing rural services to make farming communities more resilient and sustainable. And these investments are aimed at ensuring that rural areas are not left behind in the broader economic development of the country. And Labour has also indicated a desire to renegotiate trade agreements with the EU to reduce tariffs and barriers on agricultural products. Some will say there are no tariffs there. Yes, in certain cases there are still, and in certain situations. But the goal is to secure a deal that allows for smoother trade flows between the UK and the EU, making it easier for British farmers to export their goods. But while this is a complex and potentially lengthy process, they want to restore the trade relations with the EU as a priority for the agricultural sector. But renegotiation is nothing the EU wants. The Labour government also has proposed the creation of a new national food strategy, which would focus on reducing the UK's reliance on food imports by boosting domestic production. And this strategy would involve support for small and medium-sized farms, the promotion of organic farming practices, and the encouragement of innovation and technology in agriculture. By increasing domestic production, Labour aims to enhance food security, create jobs in rural areas, and reduce the environmental impact associated with importing fruit from abroad. But the jobs, how do they want to fill them? The UK has long been reliant on food imports to meet its domestic demand, while the EU is serving as a primary source of these imports. Currently, around 40% of the food consumed in the UK is imported, and nearly 30% of this comes from EU countries. And this dependency on EU imports has made the UK vulnerable to disruptions in trade, particularly now in the wake of Brexit. The reliance on food imports from the EU is most pronounced in certain categories such as fresh produce, dairy products and meat. For example, a significant proportion of the UK's fresh fruits and vegetables, including tomatoes, lettuce and citrus fruits, are imported from countries like Spain, the Netherlands and Italy. Similarly, the UK imports a large share of its dairy products such as cheese and butter from France, Ireland and other EU nations. Brexit has complicated these import relationships by introducing new customs checks, tariffs in some cases and regulatory requirements. And these changes have led to delays at ports, increased costs and reduced availability of certain products on UK shelves. And the result has been higher prices for consumers and additional pressures on the UK's food supply chain. Given the difficulties associated with importing food from the EU post-Brexit, there has been discussion about the potential to replace these imports with goods from countries outside Europe. However, this presents several challenges. First, the geographical proximity of the EU to the UK has long made it an ideal trading partner, particularly for perishable goods that require short transportation times. Importing fruit from countries on the other side of the world, such as the United States, New Zealand or Australia, involves much longer shipping times, which can compromise the freshness and quality of products like fruits, vegetables and dairy. Moreover, the cost of transportation is significantly higher, which would likely result in higher prices for consumers. And secondly, there are environmental concerns associated with long-distance food imports. Transporting goods from distant countries increases carbon emissions, contributing to climate change. This is at odds with the UK's broader environmental goals and the principles underpinning the ELMS. While some non-perishable goods such as grains, pulses and certain types of meat could be imported from countries outside the EU as they already are, the environmental and economic costs of doing so may outweigh the benefits. And furthermore, trade agreements with non-EU countries may involve different standards and regulations, particularly in areas such as food safety, animal welfare, and environmental protection. The UK would need to ensure that imported goods meet its high standards, which could complicate trade negotiations and limit the scope of potential imports. The end of the EU's common agricultural policy for the UK and the introduction of the environmental land management scheme have indeed created significant challenges for UK farmers. The loss of CAP subsidies, combined with the financial pressure of Brexit-related trade barriers and labour shortages, have left many farmers struggling to adapt to the new realities. As I said, the new Labour government has recognised these challenges, at least they say, and has proposed a series of measures to support the agriculture sector, including the reform of ELMS and increased investment, but we will see how they really try to do that, if they. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here on the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.